All right, let me just say right off the top that Joe Biden was right. Our 46th president nailed it. He was right, and I got to give it to him. I got to hand it to him. I can't disagree. Chocolate chip is the best. I mean, it is. You get the chocolate ice cream, and then when you get the chocolate chips, they just melt in your mouth. There's nothing better.
Strong take.
I mean, do you disagree?
Yeah, of course I disagree.
do?
I mean, cookie dough is the best, obviously, objectively.
You're always bashing the president. I mean, just give him a break. I mean, these things are important to him. When you get to be that age, you don't have a lot of joy in your life, and you got to appreciate the little things, like a good double scoop in a waffle cone of chocolate chip. And I think if he'd taken questions from the press yesterday, I think he would have elaborated on that, told everybody why that is his favorite, why that's the best ice cream.
I mean, if it's one thing we know about the president is his ability to vamp.
Yeah. Actually, I am going to say he's right about one thing, or was right about one thing 5 weeks ago when he made, which now turns out to be perhaps the most embarrassing public statement on video in U.S. presidential history. I mean, I think today, if you're watching the right channels, listening to the right podcasts, you will hear this and you'll sprain something cringing from how awkward this is, how wrong this is. He said that the fall of Kabul or the fall of Afghanistan would not be comparable to the fall of Saigon, when famously you see the people all climbing up to get on the helicopter to get the last flight.
Top of the embassy, right?
Yes, at the top of the embassy. And it's a historic picture, iconic picture, and it's kind of it's a picture of defeat, of desperation. And Joe Biden promised a month ago that it wouldn't be like that in Afghanistan, and he was right. He was right. Again, I commend him. He was absolutely correct. This is much, much worse. Much, much worse than the fall of Saigon. I got my list of reasons it's worse. But one of them is the technology is so much better. There are cameras everywhere. And if you have not taken the time to get on Twitter or get on social media or just watch the news, I'm not sure every news channel is covering this, but the ones, I mean, I guess you could watch Fox News if you want to see some balanced coverage. I'm going to guess NBC, ABC are running cover for the president, for the Biden regime as usual. So they might not show you this. And I'm going to guess the social media titans, the big tech titans, will go into overdrive today, censoring negative coverage of the disaster in Kabul or the disaster in Afghanistan. But I have to start with the most chilling video I think I've seen since we saw people jump from the burning towers on 9/11, which is the 20th anniversary is a couple of weeks away. And what a way to celebrate by giving back all the gains of the last 20 years and handing Afghanistan over to the Taliban. But we'll get to that. The image, and it's not clear, but it's there. It's real. Is of people who are clinging to airplanes, to Air Force jets. How crazy, how desperate do you have to be to cling to a jet thinking that's going to end well? And there's at least one image of people falling from the jet. In fact, there was a tweet by somebody saying they were jumping or being pushed from the jet. I don't think that's true. I think they were clinging to the jet. You can see the thing taxiing down the runway, a video of a big U.S.
It's a Boeing C-17 Globemaster is what it's called.
There you go. A Globemaster that was it held a lot. I'm sure it held a lot of people, but not enough room for everybody. And some people would rather just cling to the wing than stay in Kabul and wait on their imminent execution as the Taliban take over the entire airport. They've already taken over the civilian side, which is why people climbed a fence, cut through the barbed wire, and went to the military side of the airport and tried to get on these Air Force jets or these American military jets. Some did, some didn't, and some fell to their death. Now, you tell me, what do you say about that? If you're Joe Biden, well, I guess you'd say nothing because you continue to hide like the coward that he is. Joe Biden had a responsibility this weekend to go before the cameras. He didn't have to take questions. God knows that would have been a disaster as long as Peter Doocy was there. But the idea, the notion that you don't have to say anything, you don't have to show any leadership, any strength, because why? Because it's a weekend in August and you decided you had taken the weekend off. I'm sorry, that's not how this job works. And same for Jen Psaki, by the way.
Oh, I know another one who's taking a week off.
Taking a week off. I mean,
you can't do that.
You're not nobody here. You're somebody. You're the spokesman for this disastrous presidential administration. You are on call. You're on call. You have a phone, and someone says you got to get in here. There's this foreign policy disaster, and the images are striking. And people are being shot in the streets, and we've lost the entire country in a matter of days to this these cavemen, these monsters in the Taliban. Some of whom were in Gitmo, some of whom were swapped for Bo Bergdahl by Biden's old running mate, Barack Obama. Gave 5 Taliban commanders, released them in exchange for a deserter, Bo Bergdahl, and now they're leading the effort. They led the effort to conquer Afghanistan in a matter of hours. And the idea, the whole thing is infuriating. You cannot watch the news. You cannot read the news without just your blood boiling that we allowed this to happen. And I'm not just talking about, now girls can't go to school or they can't show their faces. That's disgraceful. But the way it was done is the worst lack of leadership, lack of planning I've ever seen. It's something that you don't expect from the United States of America in this day and age, even though Biden is obviously cognitively compromised. Obviously, he has issues mentally. He's not fit for the job. But we knew that a week ago. We knew that a month ago. We knew that November. Some people just wanted to get rid of Trump, and they did. And they put this guy in there. And I understand that he's not all there. But he has to be out front. He has to be on camera. He has to speak to the world, not the country, the world, and talk about this. And I'm sure he's going to be rushed out, this week at some point. And it'll be a disaster. If he takes questions, it'll be a disaster. He'll lose his way. He'll stumble and bumble. And obviously the media will say, he was presidential. But the truth is we will see just a feeble, struggling old man and with that image of him attempting to, and then you see this images from Kabul and you see people being shot in the street and you're going to say, oh my God, we've lost our way. We've lost our way. We do not have a leader. We do not have any. There's a guy who brags about our place in the international stage and America's back and we're respected again. I've never seen anything that would lead to a lack of respect, a lack of leadership, just a lack of leadership from this man, from this administration. I know they're going to change the plans. Jen Psaki is going to cancel her whatever trip to the vineyard or wherever she's going. And Biden is going to, finish up his week at Camp David and go back to the White House. But that's not going to, is that going to make it better in any way?
And it's already come out. I mean, you've got already CNN reporting yesterday that the Biden administration said that he'll make a statement in the next couple days. Like that's how the fact that he wasn't around last night is bad enough. Today is bad enough. I mean, even if he comes back tomorrow, it still looks like a huge failure. And can you imagine like a worst possible end to the war on terror, like a worst possible outcome than what has happened? And he won't stand up and take the bullets. Like he won't stand up and answer to the world community on this.
Sadly, it's not the end of the war on terror.
Well, at least in this
it's the end of our time. Well, I should say not the end of our time in Afghanistan. See, here's how this works. We all wanted out of Afghanistan. I've been saying for years. Yeah. The last 3 presidents have all vowed to get out of Afghanistan. This one did, but he did it all wrong. I mean, I love when I tweet about this and criticize Biden, and then people say, well, you wanted out of Afghanistan.
Yes.
Trump wanted, of course we did. No one's disputing that. Nobody, except Liz Cheney and Mitt freaking Romney, and we'll get to that snake. No one wanted to stay indefinitely in Afghanistan. But the idea that we were going to leave and leave all our stuff there is so bizarre. To me, again, the images this morning are striking of the people clinging to the plane and falling from the plane. But over the weekend, there was nothing as infuriating as seeing the jets at the at Bagram that were leaving there. There's two places our equipment is going. One is the fleeing military, the Afghan army, which is a disgrace. We know it's a disgrace. 300,000 strong, and they fall in a matter of days to this ragtag terrorist.
I thought it was impossible to happen, Jerry.
Yeah.
I thought it wouldn't happen. There's no way.
We'll get to Biden's disastrous. This wasn't a press conference, right? This was a statement. We'll get to it. It's so incredible. But there were two images. One was the line of trucks and armored personnel carriers heading to Iran. That's where the Afghan military, these cowards who won't protect their own country, who won't protect their own women and children, they headed to Iran in our vehicles. So the U.S., our advanced technology, our equipment, our stuff is in the hands of two regimes right now. One, it's with the mullahs in Iran. Two, it's still in Afghanistan, and the Taliban controls it. The Taliban right now is much stronger and much more dangerous than it was 20 years ago when we first started dropping bombs in Afghanistan. They didn't control the whole country 20 years ago. They do now. They didn't have an air force. We just lost to a band of 75,000 cavemen, these primitive religious fanatics, killers, monsters who had no planes, who had no helicopters, who didn't have tanks.
They're aggressive, militant, anti-enlightenment, like human rights violating, women's rights violating cave people. You're exactly right. And now they have military grade weapons and tanks and planes.
Is anything sillier than Jen Psaki saying, "Oh, if they really want to have a place on the world stage,"
oh God,
she's talking about their image around the world. These guys who marry like 8-year-old girls, and these monsters who will not they believe in honor killing. If a girl doesn't or shows her face or goes outside without a male.
If a woman reports that she's been raped, she gets stoned to death for adultery. Right. I mean, that's the kind of situation we're dealing with.
And Jen Psaki, this absolute fool, says, if they're really concerned about their place on the world stage, as I tweeted, yeah, Jen, I don't think they really want to be in the Paris Climate Accords. Just a guess. But back to this fall, back to the embarrassment, which is the way we withdrew. Not that we withdrew. Everyone wanted to withdraw. Every veteran wanted out of there. Every military leader who wasn't working for the regime said, time to go. But the idea that we left and we didn't get all our people out, they're told to shelter in place. How freaking scary is it right now to be an American contractor and you don't have a ticket out on a flight? There are no flights. The Taliban has taken over Bagram. And B, they just said stay home. Just stay in place. And what? Wait for the executioner? That's your plan?
Wait to be imprisoned and then maybe, in the right. You're right. But maybe get auctioned off for later on by American government paying the Taliban. Right. I mean, there's no good upside to sheltering in place. Do
we have enough Taliban still at Gitmo to trade for our Americans? Because that's coming next, folks. If you're trying to look ahead to the next shoe to fall, it will be a hostage situation.
Why wouldn't you protect the airport? Why wouldn't you at least? So now we're driving troops back into Afghanistan to protect the airport. Why wouldn't they have just stayed in the first place?
It's a great question, and maybe Peter Ducey asked that of. I don't even know. Is Kamala Harris going to be available? Is anybody? I mean, can we talk to Jill Biden, Dr. Jill? But the two places our equipment is. One's Iran, which is where the Afghan military ran to, those cowards. The other is in the hands of the Taliban. Joe Biden, as far as I can tell, just handed the Taliban an instant air force. They had no air force. They've never had an air force. They don't have any technology. They have RPGs and AK-47s and just the will to terrorize, to kill anybody who gets in their way. Now they get some helicopters and they get some planes, and people immediately said, yeah, but they don't know how to fly them. But you know who does?
Oh my God.
You know who does know how to fly them? The Afghan military that we trained and that are desperate to save their lives and the lives of their families. So the Taliban has a deal for the pilots of these planes. It's, you fly for us or we kill your whole family. Guess what they're going to do?
Fly for them.
They're going to fly for the Taliban.
Yeah.
They're going to change their stripes, and they're no longer, allies of the U.S. military. They learned from the U.S. military, but now they're flying for the Taliban. So Joe Biden, on top of everything else, just gave them the idea. They have our drones. They have our drones.
Yeah.
And again, they have someone, hell, if they have to take an American hostage and have them teach them how to use them, they will. They have our drones. It's going to be a real challenge, and I'm going to have to watch, I guess, MSNBC or NBC, or I might even have to read the Globe, which is just to see how these Biden stooges, how these slobbering sycophants in the media attempt to spin this. Because to me, I don't see a way. I don't see a debate. You could say, again, Trump wanted out, Obama wanted out. Of course they did. I guarantee you, Donald Trump would not have left our stuff, would not have left 4,000 Americans to fend for themselves. I guarantee you, we would not have allowed this kind of humiliation on the world stage. And one thing I'm 100% certain of is Donald Trump would have stood before the media for about 3 hours yesterday taking questions. Now, would he have made everything crystal clear? Would it have been, would have been a little messy like his press conferences often were? Yes. But they wouldn't show you an image of him sitting by himself at Camp David with a bowl of chocolate chip in front of him, and looking, on the big TV screen, see if he could find, a Wheel of Fortune.
I have to agree there. I mean, I have no lover of Trump or that administration, but I can't imagine he would have done the exact this thing. You're exactly right. He would never have left the stuff, and he would have stood there and talked to the media. Absolutely.
We have an embassy that we spent $700 million building. $700 million. It is now in the hands of these cavemen. It's now in the hands of these people who, and I tell this story all the time when Robert O'Neill, by the way, I reached out to Robert O'Neill because he's been great on Twitter. He's very upset. He flat out says that his friends died for nothing. And I respect the honesty, because if you were a friend of a Gold Star family, neighbor, say maybe you were part of a Gold Star family, you wouldn't be able to come up with a reason your loved one died, a good reason to help girls go to school in Afghanistan. Well, guess what? They don't get to go to school anymore, to help take the veils off and let them be free. That's not going to happen anymore. We're going back to 2001, and it's sad. But if you're Pat Tillman's family, your loved one died for nothing. We just saw what happened. They gave everything back. They're stronger now than they were before we went into the country. It's a shame. It's sickening. It's sad. But what else are you going to tell a Gold Star family? What else you tell a guy who's, in a wheelchair? Joey Jones, the Fox contributor, Joey Jones, who's great on Fox, lost his legs, and he knows that they won nothing. Now it's quite clear they won nothing. Just the opposite. Again, the Taliban's stronger than they were when we first went to war against them 20 years ago.
So it's a catastrophic failure because the Taliban's stronger than it was. They probably have 4 or 5 times the military size than they did before, and a bunch of equipment. It was $2.3 trillion spent for nothing. You have at least, 2,500, 5,000 U.S. Americans dead there. Million, I don't know how many.
It's almost 2,500.
2,500
servicemen and 3,800 contractors.
So there you go. And then you've got a larger Fed state now in the United States with a whole bunch more surveillance on the American people. There's less freedom here because of this as well. You can't look at it and say that there was any, what was victorious about it? What part?
That's my point. I don't know what you tell a family of Pat Tillman's family. I don't know what you do if you are a congressperson or a senator and you meet a Gold Star family. How do you say, they died fighting for what? For freedom? That's gone. That's gone. I mean, the idea, and I've said this for years, and I'll say it again, the war in Afghanistan should have lasted 2 months, literally 2 months, 10 weeks, 10 weeks. I believe that would have been plenty of time to blow up every training camp, Al-Qaeda training camp, and to get Osama bin Laden on the run. Of course, you track him to the ends of the earth, track him to the gates of hell, as Joe Biden said, or somebody said. But you blow up a bunch of Al-Qaeda training camps. You tell them if they build them up again, we're going to blow them up again. You drop leaflets and you say, if you give a safe haven to a terrorist organization, again, we're coming back and we're bombing the hell out of you, and you leave. Nothing bothered me more than when I'd occasionally read about what we're doing there, and it'd be U.S. military, Marines and soldiers building schools, building water treatment plants.
That's like going, what the
hell are you doing? I mean, that's not their
job.
That's not their job. Right. B, if you really want to do things like that, do it here. Do it here. We just passed a bill for $1 trillion infrastructure bill. We need infrastructure here. We can't be concerned with whether they have a good school, elementary school, in some hellhole that's in like the 3000 AD is about, 3000 BC, which is kind of how they're living. I tell the story again of Robert O'Neill. I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
When we talked to him, it's in his book. And he said, you're dealing with a military leader. He'd be dealing with the Afghan army and, supposedly an ally. And they'd be talking, and he would say, when the sun sets, say it's a nice sunset, says, yeah, that's the dragon blew out the sun. And he'd be going, I'm dealing with an officer, a leader. And he thinks sunset is when a dragon blows out the sun. And then you realize that these are not, they're really not on our level. As he tweeted yesterday, Rob O'Neill tweeted, says the bad news is they got our planes. The good news is they'll probably try to eat them. They don't know how to use them, But again, they're going to find people who do.
Yeah, they are. If
they have to recruit them from other countries, they're going to have some fanatic, probably who learned to fly in the U.S., down in Florida, and now they'd never really bothered to learn how to land because they weren't concerned with that. But they're going to have people that can fly them, and we're going to be at war at some level because here's the real fear: Biden's going to try to save face.
Oh yeah, he's going to attack somehow, of course,
blow something up.
Yeah. It's going to make it worse.
So here's the story this morning. If you haven't seen the images, they're, again, the worst one, and it's hard to see, but it's real. I believe I've seen a few different places of people falling from an aircraft leaving Kabul International Airport, the U.S. military aircraft. The other ones, the emptying the prisons. They're emptying prisons, which are full of terrorists, ISIS terrorists. And they opened the door. You don't even know who they are and what they did. And the Taliban just opened the gates and said, you can go free. And they're celebrating. They're running out of the prison, jumping around, dancing. I assume they'll join the Taliban. They're terrorists. They're murderers. People who killed Americans have been freed. Thousands of them. They had a prison on
5,000.
On the Air Force Base. These are prisoners of war.
Yeah.
And they're gone free. And, I'm pretty sure they'll probably go to, plumbing and heating school.
Oh, yeah. They're going to build infrastructure.
Now, maybe they'll, learn a trade or, sell insurance or something. These are stone cold terrorists who are out of prison now, freed. Was that part of the plan?
So you got the Taliban, right? Who beat the two strongest military forces and superpowers in the world in the last 40 or 50 years. And now they're 4 times or 5 times the size with heavy duty military equipment.
And
now what?
Back to Biden, because to me, it's amazing to think, again, he is cognitively compromised. He's not all there. We know that. But this seemed kind of simple. We're going to leave Afghanistan. We have to get our people out. We have to get our stuff out.
Yep.
I need someone to explain how you leave an aircraft. I'm pretty sure, you start it up, you fly it somewhere else. You bring it to whatever, Shitkikistan or whatever the hell, nearby country that we have a good relationship. Pakistan, an alleged ally. Bring it to Pakistan and then bring it to some military base They're planes, they're jets, they're helicopters. Why do you have to leave those behind?
I mean, do you think that it was a payoff to the Taliban to try to get them to not to slaughter Americans as they were leaving?
It's a good question. If it is, it's insane. I'd rather just give them a pile of cash. Speaking of payoffs, that slimy president of who left the country, left the palace, left the country. They caught him with bags full of cash. He was trying to smuggle out at least $5 million, and they confiscated it.
It's Ghani, right?
Yeah, Ghani, who was just at the White House a couple of weeks ago. This snake was caught trying to leave with all kinds of money. And by the way, the presidential palace was occupied by the Taliban, some of whom were former Gitmo detainees, some of whom were swapped for Bo Bergdahl. And they did a press statement from the presidential palace. Our guy from his presidential palace at Camp David said nothing. So the Taliban is releasing statements and explaining the latest, keeping us updated. But Joe Biden did not. That to me is remarkable. And by the way, the Taliban was tweeting and Donald Trump was not. If you want to know where big tech, where Jack Dorsey comes down in this fight, the Taliban is free to tweet, but our 45th president is not. He's banned. He can't tweet. He released a statement calling for Joe Biden to resign in disgrace. And I'll tell you what, people have resigned for less. People have been impeached.
Oh, yeah.
People have been impeached for much less.
Oh,
in fact, in the last year, a president was impeached for much, much less than what Joe Biden has just done. And I'm just going to give you some more of the latest.
Yeah.
Tweeted, I'm not sure who tweeted this out. Ron Klain, the chief of staff, wanted him to return to the White House, put on a suit and red tie and do a statement. Jill Biden said no, stepped in. If you're wondering who's the real power behind the throne, I'll find out who reported this. But here it is. Jill Biden said no. She said he could project leadership from anywhere. Well,
haven't seen it yet.
Dr. Jill, he didn't. This is from Jack Posobiec, who's big guy on Twitter. Is he giving anyone credit for this? No, Ron Klain wanted to rush him into the Situation Room, but Jill stepped in saying Joe Biden could, quote, project his leadership from anywhere. This is from a White House official, anonymous White House official, and I believe it. There had to be, and I don't have any respect for Ron Klain or Susan Rice or Barack Obama for that matter. There had to be a real strong faction saying, Joe,
you got to get in there, buddy.
Back to the White House.
Yeah.
Guess what? We got a helicopter. We got limos. Your suit's all cleaned and pressed. We got chocolate chip at the White House, Joe.
We'll jack you up with amphetamines, get you going.
What are you doing at Camp David? Like that you can't do at the White House? I mean, he's not like kayaking or anything, right?
No, he's not playing ping pong. He's not out doing golf.
Maybe he could another time, but we just lost a war. We haven't lost many of those in our 250 years. We just lost a war. What could you possibly be doing? I realize he goes to bed early and he takes a lid at 9 a.m. sometimes, but the purpose of Camp David is to get away, relax, right? Well, you can't do that. That plan is over. You can't do that. You got to go back to the White House. They got ice cream there. They got Matlock there. You could do those things, but you have to project leadership. You have to rise to this occasion. It, to me, is always the easiest thing to do, is the image thing, and which Trump was often very good at because he was tireless. He didn't sleep. Like he liked doing press conferences. So when we had coronavirus, when the COVID was taking hold and kicking everyone's ass, he did a 2-3 hour press conference every day.
Yeah.
So you could say he's a fool or whatever. The people hated him, but you couldn't say he wasn't accountable. You couldn't say he wasn't visible. He wanted to be out front. I mean, obviously he liked to play golf, but he also liked to be in front of the cameras and project leadership. That's not hard to do, especially when you don't even have to take questions. Joe Biden could have recorded something yesterday. I'm telling you, there's going to be a push from certain people for invoking the 25th Amendment and questioning whether he's fit for the office more than ever, because he could have sat in his seat and wore the casual golf shirt if he wanted to, had his bowl of ice cream and looked in the camera for 5 minutes
and just said, read a script.
You to warn the Taliban, you better leave our people alone. You better not, hurt anybody, or we're coming back in there. I mean,
empty threat, of course, but
of course, but
it would have been something.
right now, you not only does your enemies, your adversaries have this against you where you botched the whole withdrawal, but then they say, where are you? That's what a lot of people are saying on Twitter and social media. They're saying, where the hell is he? There was a hashtag, what was it, missing?
Oh, Biden missing or Biden
MIA or Biden, AWOL Biden. I don't know. There's a few different ones. And people are saying, this is insane. People on his side, people who support him are saying, where in the hell is he? Where the hell is he?
But on the 25th, though, I wanted to, that actually might help the Democrats a lot. Because then it gives them a scapegoat.
Yeah, but they get Kamala Harris. They have the worst.
But I mean, they got to try to save their next election, the 22 election and the 24 election.
Well, she can't do it. They would have to get rid of the both of them. And you know who'd be a great guy to step in? Andrew Cuomo.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So what could go wrong? But I mean, I think, excuse me, maybe Kamala Harris was insurance for him and Jill, because every time you think of getting rid of him, you think she can't do this job. She can't even, she's terrible at being vice president, which is essentially, you know, ribbon cutting, going to funerals, going to the border. She can't do that. She's a terrible, terrible politician. So I think that slows the rush to the 25th Amendment.
Maybe.
But this is going to be interesting. This first day back on the job for all of his supporters at all the networks and the newspapers and the New York Times, the Washington Post. It's going to take real skill to spin this in his favor. And again, they'll blame Trump. Hell, Biden's already blamed Trump. Every statement you see from a Democrat, Pelosi, Seth Moulton released a statement blaming Trump for what happened here. But you can't do that.
You can't do it.
You can't do it because it makes you sound like you're just passing the buck.
You can objectively say the last four administrations have botched the war on terror. I mean, this has been a 20-year conflict, right, in the Middle East. So you can absolutely objectively say that. But the withdrawal is on Biden and Biden alone.
And I mean, you say things like, I realize he wanted the ceremonial thing by September 11th.
Yeah.
But how did it not come up that, there's 4,000 Americans living there, or there's a bunch of jets and helicopters, we got to get out of there, or, our $700 million embassy, we might want to, strip it down. I can't imagine what they got in there. Did you see the video from the gym at the presidential palace? All these, Taliban maggots are on like the treadmill, and they're lifting weights in the gym at the presidential palace. I think I retweeted it this morning, but it's become comical. They're laughing at us. The guy who said we're back on the world stage, we're respected again, the whole world is laughing at you, Joe. I hate to put it all on your shoulders, but you kind of brought it on yourself. We should get to his statement from 5 weeks ago, because there's never been anything that aged more poorly than this. There's nothing. This, I mean, obviously we didn't have, this kind of technology, 100 years ago or 200 years ago, but I don't remember a president stepping in it like this in my lifetime. I don't remember seeing something that sounded so bad, and it's just begun. We have yet to, we don't even know what's going to happen on the ground. Again, hostage situation, very likely, mass executions. We've seen some dead people in the streets who were alleged collaborators with the United States, and the Taliban certainly not going easy on them, but it could get much worse.
I mean, there's thousands of Afghans there that were helping as interpreters, as fixers, helping the Americans, for the last 20 years, and they're caught, like they can't get out. Right, what's going to happen to them?
If you just supported the Afghan army or the U.S. military, they're going to kill you. That's a lot of people, and that's why people are clinging to planes, falling off airplanes to get out of there. And maybe they're just don't care. Maybe they know they're going to die either way. So they say, hey, I'll
take a shot.
Take a shot. Maybe they'll land soon, and I won't, freeze to death up here or whatever. But it is kind of insane, the images coming out of Afghanistan this morning. But let's go back 5 weeks, is it? 5 weeks.
Yeah. Do you want to do Shay before we hit the videos?
We're going to do Shay already. Yes, I do want to do Shay.
Okay.
I love Shay. I was got some new Shay soon. I got to work on getting you some garb.
I'd like a Shay hat.
Yeah, I'm going to get you a Shay hat.
All right, good.
But let me tell you about Shay, and then we'll tell you about what Joe Biden said 5 weeks ago and how badly it has aged. I told you this before we started, Carano. I said, every Monday we get lots of stuff. We got Bill Maher on Matt Damon. We got the Obama variant. I call it the sophisticated variant. The Obama, the narcissist, had the party for himself with 700 people, and at least 74 people have tested positive after that, which is no surprise. We got Mac Jones already beating out Cam Newton. I might get to that. I might not. This is just, to me, this is historic. And to me, it is so disturbing. It is one thing to hate Trump and one thing to say, I want a clean house. I want a new regime in there. It's another thing to entrust the presidency, the most important job in the world, to a 78-year-old man who wasn't that sharp before he started deteriorating with age. Now it's all on him. It's all on him. And I can't think of anything more in my lifetime. I can't think of anything more disturbing, more nerve-wracking, more
no, the man's got nuclear codes. The man can move the military. I mean, it's
right. Today I mentioned saving face. So today he could be saying, let's nuke him.
He could. Yeah,
he could. And who stops him?
I mean, you hope that the people behind him would just be like, listen, this guy's brain is pea soup. Let's not tell anybody that he said this.
And again, there are American contractors, military there, and they're awaiting word from a man who shouldn't be, again, delivering your mail. He wouldn't be, he shouldn't be driving. He should not be driving a car. He's at that stage of his life, which is not his fault. He's just old and he's not all there. And yet he's going to decide the fate of these thousands of Americans. He's going to decide the fate of the millions of Afghanis. And he's just not up for it. He doesn't have the ability. It's insane. But you really want to hear insane. Let's get back to his speech. Is this from the White House?
From July.
The White House. I think he was in the White House, or was he in Delaware, or was he at Camp David, or was he at Dairy Queen?
I can't tell the location. Maybe it says from the video. I don't remember. I just pulled. It was going around Twitter, and it's the craziest thing.
Well, when we were talking, he was talking about pulling out of Afghanistan. He made it sound like he had a plan. He obviously did not, but this is what he said 5 weeks ago.
Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. Because you have the Afghan troops have 300,000 well-equipped as any army in the world, and an air force against something like 75,000 Taliban. It is not inevitable.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Your own intelligence community has assessed that the Afghan government will likely collapse.
That is not true.
Can you please clarify what they have told you about whether that will happen or not?
That is not true. They did not reach that conclusion.
So what is the level of confidence that they have that it will not collapse?
The Afghan government and leadership has to come together. They clearly have the capacity to sustain the government in place.
And do you see any parallels between this withdrawal and what happened in Vietnam, with some people feeling?
None whatsoever. Zero. What you had entire brigades breaking through the gates of our embassy. 6, if I'm not mistaken. The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not at all comparable. So the question now is, where do they go from here? That the jury is still out. But the likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole.
Yeah, not going to happen. The Taliban aren't going to overrun everything and take over the country.
Not going to be anything like Saigon.
And by the way, he probably thought it was possible. He never thought it was possible this quickly. He thought, you pull out
Few
We
weeks, a
leave,
couple months.
Everyone's happy that we finally our time in Afghanistan is done. But, we made great progress and the girls could go to school and all that. And, 6-8 months when it's not, the focus is not necessarily on the ground in Afghanistan. All our people are out, all our military's out, our jets. And it falls to the Taliban, or he calls it the Taliban. It's like Barack Obama trying to pronounce it, the way they do at Davos. Taliban. The Taliban comes back into power and people say, oh, that's too bad. But, what can you do? His people never thought it would happen this quickly. And by the way, a lot of people, military people, veterans, Robert O'Neill and the Joey Joneses out there are tweeting about the generals. The generals botched this. The generals are a disgrace. General Milley is an absolute national embarrassment. He will not resign. He will not get fired. There will be no price to pay. It's amazing. The price you pay is as somebody said, a corporal who loses his weapon gets court-martialed.
Oh,
a
right.
general who loses a war gets promoted or gets a big job. He retires and gets a big job at Raytheon. There is no price to pay for failed leadership in the U.S. military. And by the way, is it possible that they were just so focused on diversity and inclusion and flying the pride flag over the embassy that they lost their way and forgot that they were war fighters and killers, and they were fighting an enemy that did not care about diversity and inclusion and the pride flag? I love the fact that our embassy was overrun. The ambassador took down the flag and ran to the airport. And I asked the question, was it the pride flag or the BLM flag? With this regime, you don't know.
So they were so concerned with optics, and now they have the worst optics situation they could possibly have.
It's a good point. You can't imagine. I take that back, Carano. They might start shooting people in the streets. And you know what the Taliban doesn't mind? If that's on video, they don't mind. They're not concerned.
Beheadings,
Sorry, Jen Psaki. Yeah, there are reports of beheadings.
Yeah.
I tweeted one video of American collaborators hung like in town square. I forget what city it was, but there's American supporters of the American government, the American military hanging from like a light post. So, and there's guys from the Taliban looking at the camera and with their Kalashnikov and smiling and like, that's what we do. We don't care about the international community. It's what we do. So the optics are awful, the worst ever, especially when you add in this bumbling, feeble old man by himself at the table at Camp David, staring at the TV, trying to find Wheel of Fortune on the TV, and at the same time, the Taliban has U.S. military on the run, Marines on the run from these cavemen with RPGs. It's just about as bad as you can get for optics, but it could get worse.
I think so. They should have put a bunch of stuffed animals around him at that table. It would have made him look like less of a buffoon.
I wonder why he doesn't have a couple of advisors in the picture. Why do you want him to sit there alone?
Oh, because I think they're going to try to pin it on him. I think they're going to invoke the 25th to pin it on him.
Wow, that would be wild. That will be so wild if they do. But here's, I think I know how you'll spin it. First of all, you'll say Trump wanted out, Obama wanted out, every president's promised to get out. He finally got us out. That's what you wanted. But I don't care. You can't say people like me who wanted out or who you name it. Everyone wanted out, except, again, Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, whose heart breaks for all the little Afghani girls who can't go to school. And as every single veteran tweeted at him, you have 5 sons. Have any of them ever served this country? Have you? I haven't, but I'm certainly not asking more American men to give their lives so Afghani girls could go to school. The idea that that's the job of the U.S. military is insanity, and a coward like Mitt Romney should just sit this one out. He really should, because everybody wants out of Afghanistan. It's just a matter of when. When you have someone like Liz Cheney or Mitt Romney, you say, how long do we stay? They can't answer that. We've been there 20 years. Is 30 good? 40, 50, 100? Do you want to stay forever? Maybe they do. Maybe that's what Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney want, to stay there forever. Well, most Americans, I would say 90%, do not want that.
No.
So we got out. That's good. But the idea that we got out without a plan, because clearly there is no plan when you leave your jets and your helicopters, there is no plan. So this one is on the fools in the Joint Chiefs who botched this beyond anyone's worst nightmare, and Biden, obviously, who doesn't know what he's doing. It's on the Afghan army, who are cowards and don't want to fight for their own girls and their own women. So why would some kid from Arkansas, some kid from Boston, some 19-year-old kid from Boston who joins the Marines, why should he be fighting for Afghani girls to go to school when the girls' own fathers and brothers don't do it? When they drop their weapons and run for the border, screw them. That's not our job.
I mean, I agree. I don't see nation building as the job of the U.S. government or the U.S. military. It's defense.
And what have we spent? A trillion or something. What have we spent in Afghanistan?
2.3 trillion that we know of. Do you remember a couple years ago they lost like $100 billion that they couldn't account for? So we think it's 2.3 billion.
That's what we did. We bought the support of local leaders, of local warlords, bought their support, and which tells you all you need to know about them. They're not doing it for any principle or for their children. They're doing it for the money. They get palaces. We saw some of them. They got gyms and swimming pools from the U.S. military. We just took piles of cash and bought the loyalty of the locals who are now, going to pay with their lives. But hey, they had a good time for the last 20 years. The whole thing was just botched beyond belief, and it's it's going to get so much worse. It's going to get so ugly. It is a primitive place, Afghanistan, but they do have cell phones. They do have iPhones. They do have cameras. We will be seeing, and again, they're not shy about what they do. They're not going to say, when they stoned some girl because she, went outside without her face covering, without her burqa. By the way, does that make the Democrats happy that at least the girls are covering their face? They have masks. They have masks.
Oh, well, there's that.
They have masks. I mean, the guys storming the gates of the airport in Kabul, they weren't masked up or socially distanced.
Did you see those idiots making the comparison between the January 6th stuff and the Taliban takeover of the palace? It's like there's one huge difference here. One of them has got AK-47s in their hand. In their hands. The other had
no weapons.
No weapons.
And no one died.
They were carrying flags as opposed to, these Taliban folks who are carrying AK-47s.
And they killed nobody. These guys killed, thousands.
Oh, and the hubris of the administration when you have Psaki stand up in front of the media and say, well, you know what? The Taliban, they need to be worried about what they're going to look like into the international community. And thinking that that's going to make them show restraint.
The international
Which I have
community.
that as well, if you want.
Well, they've already been recognized by China and Russia.
They have.
Yes, China's enjoying this. There's some tweets from the official China Communist Party celebrating and recognizing the Taliban.
The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan? Is that the new name, I think?
Yes, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. That's the new name of the country, right?
I think so.
The country where we lost 2,500 servicemen, 3,800 contractors, the number of injured, 20,719 U.S. military people, soldiers, Marines, injured.
And why?
Lost legs, lost eyes, brain damage. 20,719. So girls who are 10,000 miles away can go to school so they can build, outhouses or latrines for the local goat herders. We lost 20,000 guys, more than 20,000 got injured. It's madness. And I can't handle people like Mitt Romney or Liz Cheney or anybody else saying we should be staying there because this is going to hurt us standing and no one's going to want to support us. Again, it should have lasted 2 months. It lasted 20 years.
I mean, the war on terror is a huge stain on the entire federal government, including everybody who served in office at the federal level for the last 20 years. It really is. They're all responsible for this.
By the way, and this got a very little coverage so far. Maybe it will, but I asked, obviously, why are we leaving our planes there? Why are we leaving our stuff? And there's this document. There's receipts where the Biden administration, as part of the withdrawal, did not allow any more contractors in, so they couldn't service the planes. The people who fixed the planes and kept them ready to fly were not allowed back in, or were not allowed in at all in some cases. So they couldn't maintain, those planes were not maintained. So it's going to be tough for the Taliban to find a good mechanic, but if that gets out there, and again, there will be a real all-out effort to spin this, to cover for the administration like never before. You're going to see the media in overdrive trying to save this drowning administration. But if that gets out that they couldn't fly the planes because Biden would not allow mechanics and contractors in there to maintain the planes, then you have a receipt. You have someone specific to blame. You have the president to blame. But do we have? I want to play Jen Psaki too because it's so incredible. And it's the last we heard from her, right? She's been gone.
I think so. Yeah.
She's probably, I don't know where she is, on the Vineyard or on Nantucket. She's probably sailing today. She's probably sailing, or maybe she's having a little bike ride. Getting ice cream, whatever you do on vacation. Not that there's any reason for her to be back on the job. It's amazing. I mean, when I was a lowly sports writer, you went on vacation, but if something happened,
a big story happened.
Like somebody,
bombing.
Reggie Lewis died.
Yeah,
that was it.
Right.
Wasn't matter where you were. You got a call and you had to work. That's the job. You didn't say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm climbing a mountain today with my wife. Too bad, Reggie Lewis died," or you name it, Len Bias died, or whatever. Big trade. They traded for Pedro Martinez. You got to work. You knew it. That was the deal. And we were, sports writers. The idea that you're a spokesman for the most powerful man in the world, and you're on vacation. Again, that'll change. I mean, even she's not that dumb. She knows she can't stay away, but she's going to have some walking back to do when she ever does return. What do we have Psaki saying here?
Oh, this is her talking about the Taliban on the national stage.
Oh, good. And how the Taliban, they're not going to, if they keep this up, if they keep beheading, the infidels, they might not get invited to Davos next year.
The Taliban is clearly on the march. Your objective is to have a negotiated political settlement. What gives you confidence that the Taliban is interested in that?
Well, the Taliban has to make an assessment. One, we have also said that there's no question that the Afghan National Defense Security Forces would be strengthened, as would the Afghan political leadership, if they were to have more success in fighting back. There's no question about that. We're not hiding from that in any way, shape, or form. The Taliban also has to make an assessment about what they want their role to be in the international community. And I know that Ambassador Khalilzad made comments when he was at the political negotiations yesterday, making clear that the international community is going to watch closely how the Taliban behaves.
Like that's some sort of threat. Are you kidding me? They just beat the U.S. Army and the Soviet Army in the last 40 years, and they're worried about how they look on the national stage.
They essentially beat the U.S. Army in a matter of days. It was, obviously it was a long slog for 20 years, but we found out just how well trained the Afghan army was and motivated. By the way, they surrendered like the cowards they are in days and ran for the hills, or probably begged for their lives and promised to join the Taliban and help them beat the infidels. It's going to be a challenge. It's the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen in my life. The most embarrassing thing I've ever seen from an administration. And I was alive, and I was working at a gas station when Jimmy Carter was president, and we had gas shortages, and we had the weakest president I thought we'd ever see. We're all very sorry, Jimmy Carter. We take it all back. You are not even close to the weakest, most embarrassing man to sit in that Oval Office. Although he hasn't been in the Oval Office. Maybe today. I can't get over it. Optics are easy. That would be if I were, Jen Psaki or Ron Klain. Optics are easy. The hard part, is making the big decisions, or, as you say, dropping nukes, or, that's hard. The easy part is sitting there in the Oval Office with a bunch of generals and looking like you're actually on top of things, and not pretending that it's not that big a deal that you can't interrupt your vacation. By the way, how many days does this guy, he just goes on vacation constantly. He's in Wilmington, Delaware at the beach, in Rehoboth or whatever it's called, or he's in Camp David. I mean, does the guy ever actually, work?
No.
All right, we will wait. We will see. Do we have any more sound? Because I know you had a lot of good sound.
Yeah, so I've got Tony Blinken, who's the Secretary of State with Jake Travis. Jake does a good job here.
Jake does. I mean, he's not stupid, Jake. He's not like Don Lemon or Chris Cuomo. He's not dumb. He knows how bad this looks, and he knows he can't really cover for this guy? Because Blinken, maybe you talked about finding a guy to blame it all on. I mean, Blinken is just the weakest sounding. I mean, this is a guy
No, he is.
who went to Alaska and the Chinese took him over their knee and spanked him and started telling him about, you got Black Lives Matter. You guys are, you got George Floyd, and Blinken just sat there and with some woman with purple hair at the summit, and it was just humiliating. But this is so much worse. Blinken he may be the guy who takes the fall. He may be the guy who gets forced out. If they need somebody,
they're going to need
to walk the plank. This could be the guy. But let's hear this weakling, this empty shell of a Secretary of State, Tony Blinken.
Obama's former ambassador to Afghanistan, Ryan Crocker, he called the way this was done, quote, a handover to the Taliban, and quote, we have hung them out to dry about the Afghan people. Crocker continued, quote, I'm left with some grave questions in my mind about Biden's ability to lead our nation as commander-in-chief, to have read this so wrong, or even worse, to have understood what was likely to happen and not care, unquote. Does President Biden not bear the blame for this disastrous exit from Afghanistan?
Jake, we've seen two things. First, we've known all along, we've said all along, including the president, that the Taliban was at its greatest position of strength at any time since 2001, when it was last in charge of the country. That is the Taliban that we inherited. And so we saw that they were very much capable of going on the offensive and beginning to take back the country. But at the same time, we had invested over 4 administrations, billions of dollars, along with the international community, in the Afghan security and defense forces, building a modern military with the most sophisticated equipment, 300,000 forces strong, with an air force that the Taliban didn't have. And the fact of the matter is, we've seen that force has been unable to defend the country. And
it is amazing. 300,000 with an air force, and they get taken over. They get defeated by these cavemen with RPGs in a couple of days.
So he's contradicting what Biden said just a few weeks before, which is there's no way the Taliban takes over.
Well, they did, and now they control the country, and they're celebrating. And you'll see, if you're looking the right places, you're going to see some really disturbing video. And I don't know what time Joe Biden rolled out of bed this morning, but he had a tough decision to make, and I sympathize with him. I mean, they have a fresh box of Fruit Loops up there, and they have some Lucky Charms, which he had yesterday. He loves Lucky Charms, but sometimes you want to mix it up. I think they might, it's Camp David, so they're well equipped. They might also have Cocoa Krispies. So he's got a tough call to make before, he decides what to do about this humiliation. Here's how it could get worse. We've gone on, but many ways, hostages. But if Americans, contractors, or military are killed like on camera today, does that mean, like you said, Joe Biden's going to say, nuke them, just nuke them? I mean, what's he going to do to save face when this gets worse? I mean, could get much worse before it gets better. It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be alarming. And I'm not kidding. I don't obviously like the Biden regime, but I'm embarrassed for the country right now. It's embarrassing that the U.S. military, my whole life, was this unassailable force of good. Maybe I'm, idealistic about it, but we didn't get chased out of a country by, these cavemen with RPGs. That just didn't happen until this weekend. And it is, every American should be disturbed and embarrassed and concerned that this is the way it's going to be now. We're going to, our military's now for social engineering to make sure we understand white rage, and we have diversity and we have inclusion, but we just, can't beat a bunch of ragtag terrorists who don't even have oh wait, they have an Air Force now. Sorry, I was wrong. Instant Air Force. Thank you, Joe Biden. But we shall leave it there. I told you we had a lot of other stuff to get to, typical on a Monday, but the hell with it. This is too big. This is too disturbing, too scary, man. When I think about him right now rolling out of bed, whatever, getting his slippers and his jammies, and they're bringing him breakfast, and they're saying, Joe, what are we going to do? There are thousands of Americans trapped in Kabul. What do you want to do? Oh, just tell them to shelter in place. What? Shelter in place? What? Wait to be slaughtered? Is that what you're saying? Wait for that knock on the door? God, I mean, I would never go there. I would never be an American contractor, but people got to make a living. There's probably guys who get paid a lot of money, send it home, support their family, doing whatever they're doing, electrical work over there, or keeping the air
Processing
conditioning.
visas, even. I mean,
right, working in the embassy, the $700 million embassy, which will now serve as a place where the Taliban, there's probably a nice courtyard at the embassy where they can stone young girls who show their faces, or they can cut the hands off petty thieves, or if they find a girl with nail polish, they can cut her fingers off. That's kind of the Taliban way. They need a good place to do that, and what better way? I mean, maybe they can drown people in the pool at the $700 million embassy. Heretics and collaborators. We could drown them in the pool. This, I have a feeling, Carano, is going to get much, much worse. At least the optics. And optics are easy. The Taliban, even the Taliban knows that. We're going to find out that someone leading the charge here, the leader, the guy who's led this whole effort, was once in Gitmo, and we let him go in exchange for a deserter, Bo Bergdahl. That was on Obama. Trump wanted out, Obama wanted out, Biden got us out. He just did it all wrong. That's quite obvious, and it's only just begun. But we will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for listening and watching. You got a lot of comments over there, Carano?
Yeah.
Are people as pissed off as I am?
They are. Tim talked earlier about how a buddy died in Afghanistan. Was a medic. I mean, this is a common story. A lot of people know people who were over there and died.
And now it's, again, what do you say? You say they died for nothing. Thanks to Joe Biden, they died for nothing. We got nothing. I mean, we spent $2.5 trillion and we lost 6,000 contractors and servicemen and 20,000 injured. But what was the goal? What did we win? At least you could say in Vietnam, we were stopping the spread of communism, attempting to stop, the communist takeover of Southeast Asia. What do you say we got? What did we do in Afghanistan for 20 years? Again, it should have been 2 months. Blow the hell up, blow the hell out of all those Al-Qaeda camps, Banad's on the run, and you leave. That's how it should have been done. 20 years later, you look back and you say, our military are being run by morons and just hacks and just fools. It's sad, but that's the way it is. And there's just no way to spin it. Good luck tonight, Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo is probably still on vacation. Huh? He's dancing. Did you see that video of Chris Cuomo at the nightclub dancing with a guy?
I've got no use for that guy.
Good luck to Joy Reid, and good luck to Andrea Mitchell and Yamiche Alcindor and everyone at the Globe and the Washington Post, New York Times. Good luck spinning this absolute abject disaster. But we'll be talking about it again tomorrow and in the coming days, I'm sure. But all right, Carano, good job. Thanks for doing it. And again, thanks to everyone for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Show, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.